Hey guys, Jeff from Top Star Mobile Detailing, Las Vegas, where average is the enemy. Today we are going to be talking about detailing in cold weather. Some of the products that you might want to have, some of the gear that you might want to use. You might be asking yourself why I'm holding this thing in my hand. It's actually not a microphone. What this is a heater for your bucket. So I use this, not quite yet, but going into the winter time, it does get cold here in Las Vegas. The temperatures do get down to freezing. So what I like to do with this is when I fill up my bucket of water, I fill this up, I start the day, I'll throw this in the bucket here like this, plug this into the generator, and this will heat up 4 or 5 gallons of water within about 5 minutes, and you have nice hot water that you can use for the day. So when the weather's really cold, it makes a huge difference, guys. The difference between having to stick your hand into ice cold water over and over and over again throughout the course of the day versus having a nice warm bucket of water to stick your hands in, it really makes a difference as far as how you feel throughout the day. Another cool thing with this bucket heater is sometimes you can actually use this for your water tank. So if it's going to be like a few days in a row, a few nights in a row where it gets really, really cold and you're concerned about the potential of your water tank freezing, it doesn't really get to that level here in Vegas, but maybe you're in a part of the country where it does. You can actually drop this down inside your water tank, leave it plugged in, and this will heat up your water tank to like the temperature of a hot tub. So it's really nice. You can have hot water that comes out of your pressure washer and use that hot water for the cars for the day. So one of the cool things to have for when the weather gets cold, guys, I'll put the link to this down below. There's a few different ones that they have on Amazon. This one I use is like a good mid-range, not too expensive, but definitely worth the money if you're detailing in cold weather.
How long does it take to warm up? Instantly? A couple seconds, minutes?
So this, when you plug it in, this gets hot really quick. You don't want to touch this with your hands or anything. It will burn you. Once you put this into the bucket, a 5-gallon bucket like that, it'll heat that up within a few minutes. So if you leave that in the bucket, 5 minutes, that bucket will be nice and hot.
Now, follow-up question is, that gets hot, it won't melt the bucket?
If you don't have water in it, yes, it will. So as long as this is in the water, it won't melt the bucket. But if this is just laying up against the plastic directly, then yes, you could potentially melt the bucket. So you want to make sure that the water is covering the element on this that gets hot. So yeah, definitely don't put this in like a dry bucket or anything, or you might melt your bucket, start a fire, and burn down your mobile unit. Next thing that's really important that you guys want to use in the wintertime, guys, is gloves, right? So, most of us use the latex nitrile gloves just to protect our hands from different chemicals and things like that. I use these a lot in the winter time too, but they don't really provide much warmth. It's better than just having bare skin out there in the cold. But I also like to have another pair of gloves that has some type of like insulation to them. These are a little bit warmer, they're rubber. You can wear these underneath the other gloves and it will provide your hands with some extra warmth in the cold temperatures. It's really important to keep your extremities warm when you're detailing in cold. Also your feet as well. Like I'm wearing, these are Gore-Tex waterproof boots, right? So as detailers, our feet are constantly getting wet. You're constantly getting water on them all the time. In the summer, it doesn't really bother me that much, but in the wintertime, if you start off the day and your feet are wet and you're gonna be out in the cold, working in that cold weather all day, it's gonna be miserable and it's gonna make your day, just drag on. It's not gonna be a good experience. You could potentially get sick, so you wanna keep your feet dry, nice and warm, keep your hands warm throughout the day. So another thing that I like to use in the cold weather, in my box of items over here, is I picked up one of these neck socks last winter, and this thing came in handy like so many times. Really cool product. What I like to do with this, you just throw it on over your head like so. The great thing about this is in the cold weather, you can pull this up over your face like this, guys, where it's not only going to protect you from the wind, the cold, but when you're spraying all these products around and it's windy out, a lot of times it'll kind of blow back in your face. So if you pull this up over your mouth, your nose, you're not going to be breathing in those toxic chemicals all the time. And it's going to keep your neck protected and warm throughout the day. So hat, neck sock, warm boots, and gloves, really important.
All right, Jeff. So what's the earliest you'll detail?
In the wintertime, I start at 7 a.m. So prior to that, it's still pretty dark right up until 7. So 7, you kind of get that morning light coming up. Anything really earlier than that, too, neighbors, you know, tend to not be too fond of you showing up any earlier than 7 a.m. Even 7's pushing it in some neighborhoods, so depending on where you're going, but I'll start at 7. In the wintertime, I'm wrapping up, usually start closing up by like 4:30, 5 at the latest. Is dark at like 4:35 in wintertime, so I don't really like detailing in the dark. If I do go over into the dark, there is one more product. Let me grab out of the trailer here that I use. I picked up some of these headlamps, which are really cool too. So every once in a while, you know, if I run over and I'm like running behind, it's getting dark, these are great because you could throw them on. It has a beam on the side, and it also has this whole strip in front, and it throws off a lot of light. So these are good. They usually run for a couple hours on a charge. I keep a couple of these in the van in case it's me and a helper or something. But these do come in handy when it starts to get dark. If you're working on an interior or something and you need that extra light, these little headlamps really come in handy too. So I'll throw that link down below in the description down below if you guys want to check that out on Amazon as well.
All right, Jeff, and for power source, what are we going to be using?
So today we're actually going to be just plugging in to the house today. The reason being is normally I use the generator. My battery in the generator is starting to kind of run down where it's not cranking on its own very much. So we're going to use the power for the house on this. Another thing I got was the battery charger, where I'm going to hook this up to the battery in the back of the generator and give that a few hours of charge, give that a little boost up. I like to do this about once a month. I'll hook this up to the battery for a couple hours and just let it kind of like, you know, boost up the battery again, give it that juice. You'll know when it starts to kind of fade, because when you hit the remote start, it just doesn't want to turn over, it doesn't want to crank, you know. So we're going to get that juiced up. This trickle charger is good for stuff like this. We'll put that in the link below too. But yeah, so we're going to be plugging in and using this for the day. It's also much quieter too, so you won't have the generator cranking away, you know, while we're at home. It makes sense to use the power.
All right, Jeff, and for detailers that don't have a lot of experience, what are some chemicals that react differently in the cold?
Yeah, so once you get into the freezing cold temperatures, some of the products may work a little differently. I use pretty much everything that I would normally use in the wintertime. Sometimes it just a little bit. The only thing that really is different, I would say, would be like, I don't do ceramic coating in freezing temperatures. You want to kind of stay more in that 50 to 70 temps for that, you know. Other than that, I mean, I still use all of these products year round, whether it's in the middle of the summer, the middle of the winter. I haven't really had any issues using anything. Although I will say, if it's freezing out, when you're putting stuff on the hood, like if you're using wet coat or something like that on the hood and it's freezing, it will actually start to ice up on the hood. Even the water, when you're putting the water on the hood, you'll start to see like little thin layers of ice on there. So, you know, that is one of the drawbacks about working in the winter time. And some of you guys are probably in the really cold weather where it's even a lot worse than Vegas. Isn't too bad. But, you know, as a mobile detailer, that's just one of the things that we have to deal with out there. We're out there on the front lines in the real world, and you can't control the weather. So the only thing you can do is adapt to it and, you know, do your best that you can to get through those times. And, you know, we still make it happen, and you give the client the best results you can.
All right, Jeff, last question. I actually heard this from another detailer that when it's cold, it's getting dark, it's super hard to dry a car.
Yeah, I mean, it is definitely harder for sure. And, you know, one of the things that I like to do, the strategies that I like to do, if I'm doing a full detail, in the summertime, normally I will start with the interior and do the exterior last. In the wintertime, that reverses for me. So I actually will do the exterior first. The reason that I do that is it gives it that extra time to dry. So after you're done with the exterior, I like to open up all the doors, let the door jambs air out, let all the cracks and crevices, because it will take a good hour to 2 hours sometimes for it to fully dry out, you know. You can still towel it off. I do have a dryer that I use as well. This comes in handy for in the winter time. There's a blow tool, and there's different ones that you can use on these, but I use this one. You know, you plug this in, and this, it doesn't really it's not like hot air like a blow dryer, but the air does come out warm. So I'll use this to kind of assist with drying the rims, the wheels, in all the little cracks and crevices. You know, so I towel it off first to get off the majority of the water, and then use this to follow up to get out what's left. But yes, it does take longer in the winter, you know, due to the colder weather. Here in Vegas in the summertime, the cars dry almost instantly, right? So it's not, you know, it's not something you worry about in the summer. It's funny how things change from summer to winter, because like in the summertime, I hate wearing gloves, like latex gloves. I know you should wear them to protect your hands from the chemicals and stuff like that, but your hands get so hot in the gloves that they fill up with sweat, and there's literally like sweat pouring out of the gloves. It like works against you, right? And in the winter, it's like, I can't wait to put the gloves on, and it's like, man, I want gloves to keep my hands warm, right? So, you know, it's going through the year and the seasons and just kind of learning to detail in those different conditions and the climates and adapting to the weather. But it's going to make you stronger. It's going to make you better overall. And once you learn how to do that, guys, you become unstoppable. So one of the things, guys, very important. You don't want to show up to the client's door with all this stuff on, with your mask pulled up like this, and you know they're gonna think that you're there to rob them or something, right? So maybe put this stuff on after you show up, after you get to the detail. One of the things, another important thing is I like to drink hot liquids when I'm detailing in the cold. So I'll usually have either a hot cup of coffee or a hot cup of tea, something like warm liquids to start out the day. So, you know, I like to bring that. When you feel your core temperature starting to get low, sip on your tea or your coffee, and that'll keep you nice and warm inside throughout the day. Okay, guys, so that was the video of detailing in cold weather, some of the different gear that you want to have, some of the different products that you use, like the air dryer, the bucket heater, headlamps, things like that. Let me know what you guys think. Are there any tools or gear that I missed that you use in the cold weather? Love to hear from you guys. What market are you in? What climate are you in? I know some of you guys detail out in the places where you actually get snow and in the cold weather like that, the extreme cold. So drop it in the comments below. Let us know how you guys go through the winter, and we'll see you in the next one.